Alright, so with the big K hurling around the accusations, I figured that I would take time to kind of explain specific things that Widow players do or that just Overwatch players do at a high level, so that there's a better understanding of those things in Twitch chat and Twitter and Reddit and all those outlets, I guess. A big thing that you see in Valorant and CS:GO, those tactical like shooters, right, is a lot is based around timing, right? So say if you know the other team is a Widow player, right, and you're on defense, right? So I know that off spawn, me being the defending Widow in this scenario, the Widow can come from here, 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 up there, or up there, right? So if I have shields here, so say this is double shield meta and I have two shields kind of at this corner, right? Maybe my Orisa pre-shielded and my Sigma might be waiting like back here. Normally they won't do this, but I've seen Sigmas do this. And he might be waiting for a grapple like over this building, because you can grapple just over from the top right ledge on the opposing side, and look for a pick back here. So if my supports are playing like in the open back here, because the support players might not expect a Widow, but the Sigma does, the Sigma might wait here to try and shield the grapple, whatever, right? But generally speaking, if I have like say double shield tanks here, right, and a Widow comes out and she sees that, a lot of the time what she's going to do is she's less inclined on the double shield patch to just grapple here. It's doable, and it's something that I've done, obviously, because why not? Well, actually, there's a reason why not. It's mostly I've done that just to lack of discipline, and because I thought that, hey, let's give it a shot. But really, the better play is to just go far left, here, and wait. Using your teammates' outlines, you look at your teammates' outlines, and if you saw the Orisa shield was here, right? You wait until your tanks can push past that corner, and once your tanks start kind of posturing like this, they start kind of moving past the corner with the cart and they start posturing kind of like this, right? Then what you do is you look at where is your Orisa looking, where's your Sigma looking, like where's their camera at? Because if your tanks come around this corner and they're postured like right here and they're looking here, then they've probably just simply taken a wide angle on the Orisa or on a Sigma or on somebody in this corner, and they're just pummeling them, right? At which point, I don't really want to peek wider, because the focal point of the fight right now is that Orisa, right? So I'll try to peek like maybe here, or even back here if the Orisa's like too far forward on that corner. But what I'm also looking for is during her shield downtime, because she's being pummeled in this situation by my frontline, I'm looking for anyone that might be coming to try and help her behind her, right? Just based on the situation that's happening here. But if I were the defending Widow in this case, and I know that they have a Widow player, so they have Code or someone, I haven't seen the Widow, I haven't heard from the Widow. You know, if she was left, she probably would have already taken a shot. I know she hasn't crossed right, because if somebody crosses right, you should know. Nobody should know. In Widow v Widow, the Widow should never be able to cross this bridge, get out here, and come out here without you seeing her or her being called. And if that's the case, if you leave this area unchecked for too long, then at that point, you have to be open to the fact that there could be a Widow flanking, right? Just based on the time that you haven't seen her and you haven't heard from her, right? At the start of the round. But really quick, say the Widow does flank. Say I play back courtyard, right? I do this pussy ladder shit that people have been doing that's turbo tilting, where they put a Venom Mine right here, and they do this. And they just bank on not being able to be, oh, that's more like right here. And they just do this. This is AIDS, right? So say I'm doing this little abuse shit, and Widow comes over here, right? Widow gets called out, she gets marked, she dies. Awesome, great, didn't have to do anything. But I know that Widow is in spawn. right? She's gonna respawn. She's gonna wait out the death timer. She's gonna respawn, and then again, the cycle starts over. She has here, 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 there, and there to come out of. Now I can start thinking, based off the current climate of the fight, the fact that she did go for the long flank, which used like probably 30 to 40 seconds of the clock, if not more, depending on if she tried to manipulate timing or hide or anything, right? She's not very inclined to go for another long flank. It'd be really odd for a Widow to go for a huge long flank in ranked, get no value and get instantly punished, and then just try to do another very long flank. It doesn't make a whole ton of sense. So with that in mind, and then I would want to look at where my team is. For example, do I have an Ashe with a Mercy pocket sitting high ground? And, you know, maybe the Ashe has been hitting shots, he's feeling himself, he's a little bit he's overstepped a touch, right? But if he dies here, he can get res. So it's not a huge issue, right? But what it does do is it does bait the enemy Widow, right? Because I know that if I have my Ashe and my Mercy sitting on high ground, fucking pummeling shields or trying to farm Bob here, then I know that the enemy Widow is more than likely looking for that, right? Especially if it's off spawn. So, say my Ashe is up here free firing, the Widow's dead, you know, the Widow's been dead. The Ashe doesn't take into account the Widow's spawn timer, but I do. Again, in this hypothetical. Then the Widow knows while she's respawning that the Ashe is there with Deathcam, right? She's specking her teammates, all that. Sorry, water. And then, so she can decide on her path out of spawn based on the fact that this Ashe is here. And that's something that most, if not all, good Widow players will do, right? They'll use Deathcam and they'll find what's going on and then make a decision off it. That's not really a Widow player thing, that's an Overwatch player thing, right? And you guys should all be doing it. So, it's not really something that I measure in seconds, like literal seconds or anything like that. Like, I just know, I have a feeling, because I've come out of Rialto spawn every way so many different times, that I know that if I hold this angle over here, right? Say if I hold here. I'm not a huge fan of this because he can come from top and kill me. Or if I want to deny, I can't really deny top. I think this angle is better, right? Because when I see him, I can just strafe to my right and then create a bigger angle for myself if he wants to peek wide. But I know that if I hold this for like, so say he respawns, right? I know that if I hold this for like, I'd say 4 seconds-ish, that he probably has no intent of peeking here unless he's waiting for his team if he died first, right? So at that point, I would go, okay, maybe he's here. So I would jump peek this, like that, right? Okay, he's not there. I'd clear this really quick. And at this point, he could be here, behind this wall waiting. But that's just kind of something you have to accept. If you really want to be cautious, you can then do this, like come back here, so in case he was back there for some reason, you can come back here, deny that angle, and then jump peek here and try to clear that, and see if he's peeking it a little bit that way. But then, now that I know that I've more or less cleared the right side of the map, he could be hiding back here, obviously. And then just based on that alone, I have it on pretty good authority that he might be bridge, right? So if I want to jiggle bridge really quick, I can, right? And a lot of the time, so like right here, for example, if my team is right here, right? Say they're being pummeled by the front line. If my team is right here and I want to jiggle and I want to see if he's bridge, then he's more than likely pushed up over here, right? The reason for that is because it's a better angle for him, for the team that's here, right? If he was here, he would have to wait for them to come out way further back before he gets value, but it is minutely safer for him, right? Whereas right here is dangerous for him, but he gets more value, so it's a little bit more greedy, and it's something that's really common, obviously, in like ranked play. But I'd say even like top Widows do have like kind of take greedy angles like that. Getting punished for this isn't, I mean, it's somewhat common, but it's not a huge concern, right? So what I'm trying to explain here in a very long-winded, unscripted fashion is that when you see a really good Widow player like Code, or like, when I say Code, I mean Codebreaker, by the way. His Twitch will be in the description. When you see a really good Widow like Code or Ons, when they time a grapple off of a death timer, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to read the enemy Widow based on her spawn timing, where she'll likely path, and then they're banking on catching her off guard coming out of spawn, and getting a free kill. That's mainly what you see. You see it a lot on maps like Volskaya. There was a game of Ranked like a week ago or so where Code and I did it to each other the entire map. Because we're both streaming, so we're both reading chat coming out of spawn on second point attack, and the defending Widow kept obviously doing that, and it was pretty funny. But anyway, yeah, just using timing and process of elimination, and using your team's position for context. All are things that help you determine kind of step by step where their Widow could be, where he's likely to be, the kind of angle he's likely to hold, and things like that. These are all things that most Widow players take into account constantly, even sometimes without realizing it. It's not rocket science, it's not really anything special. Like, these are all things that, like, in CSGO and Valorant and those tac shooters, like I said before, that are very common, right? Like determining where someone is based off timing. And it's actually Valorant and CSGO. When I went and played Valorant, even though I was just absolutely egregious at the game, when I came back to Overwatch just to play some games here and there for fun, just play some comp, I noticed that I was really a lot better at kind of predicting where the enemy would be at what time, right? And with this, a lot of the time you can actually determine how free are you to do something, right? So if I know that the Widow might be going right, then I can stay here. I can take like this greedy angle. Or, what's a greedy angle? Okay, so if I know she might be coming right, so this is like, Soon does this a lot. Soon will play like here, right? So I can farm headshots here, right? And if I know that their Widow is coming right, I can hide here and go for this. But this is not that good, because their Widow decides, the attacking Widow here, whoever would be peeking, decides she gets to dictate the kind of tempo of the duel, right? Sorry, water. And what I mean by that is, well, yeah, I could know that she's coming from here. There's a really big chance that I still die, because he knows that I was firing from back here, that I was around here, and that you know, at a high level, he knows that I'm now inclined to hold this angle to wait for him, right? Because this is a really common route for Widow out of spawn. So he could just be extremely, like, Code, for example, is really fucking good. He's infuriatingly good at these kind of duels. Code would hit this shot probably 8 times out of 10, if not more. So holding here is one option, right? I don't think it's a great option, because, like I said, their Widow gets to dictate the tempo of how this duel's taken. So while you can hold this angle, he can hold this angle and pre-fire it, right? So what you can do is you can get those free headshots, that free alt charge, that free walls advantage, which is really fucking good for you to have, right? And then you can rotate back main. So really quickly, you can check bridge. So check bridge back here so you don't show yourself through this angle here, right? And then you can come back here. I'd say you could probably take like this path, come back here, and then look for him here, right? He might be crossing still. Again, you can use your grapple to get here faster if you'd like. He might be crossing still. You can check here. He might have just peeked to this angle really quick from like and looked over here to where you were, and then regrouped with his team, right? Or he might have crossed and flanked. So at this point, you could just Venom Mine, right? And say, okay, you know, clear this. Maybe you can farm some additional headshots, but at this point you should be wary of telling the enemy where you are with your scope. But if you get tagged by an enemy DPS or an enemy tank or something, then you should very likely understand that you've probably been calmed. But you should also be aware that he could be over here now, right? Because while yes, you did look at bridge when you crossed back here, based on the timing, he wouldn't have been there yet. So mainly you're trying to look out for anyone else flanking from bridge and just getting whatever info you can, because why not? And then coming here, right? So you try to play to cut off the angle here and get what value you can here, while understanding that their Widow could be here, there, or even up top. I think the up top angle is not super common on Realto first. I don't regularly die from people up here. just because I think it's really hard to get up here as Widow without being called. I think it's a pretty hard thing to do. But also on defense, break these railings, because they're gonna have an easier time to line up the shot, right? Because they're the ones that are aggressing, and where a lot of times the defending would have done here, you might have to be reactionary, and then you don't have as much time to line the shot up through these, and so they might just block your shot, which is really infuriating. So yeah, I didn't really cover a whole specific thing. I kind of just spoke on timing and examples and stuff. This is really messy. I'm sorry. I'll try to get a better format for these kind of things in the future. Somebody clipped me like holding an angle of a Mercy in second point, Route 66. She was holding Cave, blue beaming her Genji, who was on top of gas. And then I was holding an angle for the Mercy, waiting for her, and then the Genji double jump peeked over the cover on top of gas second, and I body shot him from holding the angle on second. And people think, and some guy, I guess some Kephrii viewer, thought that like I was holding an aim key. So with that said, there's obviously a lack of understanding of like angle priority, and considering and things like, you know, considering that the enemy could do this misplay, like double jump peek over cover when they don't need to, when they're fighting someone else. So they have cover to me and they're fighting somebody else while they're pocketed, and I can't see them, and then they peek over it with a double jump, so I punish them for it, right? So I want to do like a video on like angle priority, target priority, how to determine who's more likely to peek where and when in situations like that, as well as understanding what the enemy could do that is a misplay, and then frankly kind of giving them the respect that they won't do this obvious misplay, but considering the fact that it can happen and being ready for it in case they do. So considering multiple variables and multiple things and kind of being ready for it is super important.